So let's take an example of urgent and important. Things like a crisis at work, where you've got an emergency case, you've got an unexpected important meeting at work that needs to happen. Give me some other examples in your life of urgent and important tasks. Give some, because the examples that you give maybe as may resonate with other people as well. And it might be that what is important for you may not be important for someone else, but what is in your life urgent and important? Give us some examples in the chat box. So let's have FRCR 2A exam in a week. Absolutely. That's urgent and important. Another one. Anything else that anyone else wants to put there? So these are pick up kids from school as driver wasn't available. Absolutely important and urgent. You know, you don't pick them up, they are stranded there. And yeah, absolutely. Another one. Now, you can't always predict or avoid some issues or crises. That's the fact. But you know, but it's often good to not pack your timetable with things. So my timetable now, I do have the slight luxury of working for myself. So I leave big gaps for things which are urgent. I mean, one example could be a phone call from your spouse, which is unusual. If it's unusual, if it's very constant, then maybe you would maybe say to your spouse, okay, if you call me once, I won't pick up, but if you call me 3 times or 2 times, I will reply to you straight away. I'll pick up, because then you know. So don't call me more than once or more than twice, maybe, unless it's urgent and important. So that's just a way, okay? To take a family member to school, to hospital if he's sick, or, you know, absolutely good. That's some examples. Next one, important but not urgent. So this may be where, unlike the Griselda who wrote there about FRCI exam in 1 week, this may be important but not urgent, in the sense it's FRCI exam maybe in March or in January. Maybe it's important but not urgent. That's where you need to schedule. And we'll talk more about having learning plans and planning your days tomorrow in the webinar that we are running on the FRCR exam, if that's something that you're going to do. But this is about having daily reporting goals, maybe your health and fitness. For example, many of us will often put this into not important and not urgent, and then we end up getting coronary heart disease and diabetes and all kinds of things. But this is important but not urgent, and that's why you need to schedule it into your daily routine. Planning for a vacation, you might not think it's important, but it might be important for your kids and your children and your friends, you know, of conferences, courses. These are important for our development as people. And I just want to encourage, how many of you attend sort of general courses not to do with radiology, you know, development courses around time management, or around life, just generally, you know, fulfillment, that kind of stuff. Do any of you do that? If you do, just put yes in the chat box. But these are these important but urgent. They are activities that help you achieve your personal and professional goals and complete important work. But you've got to allow plenty of time to do these properly, so that they do not end up becoming urgent. So if, for example, in the earlier example, you've got an exam in 1 week, if you had planned it kind of regularly over time, it wouldn't maybe feel that, you know, scary. So this is where you schedule time in, plan it out, plan your study schedule for the next 2 or 3 months, and then, you know, that's what this is about. Now, we've interviewed a number of our candidates who passed the exam, and many of them, or pretty much all of them, they prioritize their exam preparation in between their routine, their daily routine. They made sure that they did 2 or 3 written packets, and they attended, the courses, online vivas. It's quite interesting. There are people who join courses like our combined course, and then they don't turn up on Saturdays. They don't take leave on Saturdays, and then 1 month before the exam, they suddenly realize they're not ready for vivas. Is that a surprise? You have not been attending any of the viva courses, and then you kind of, which have been there, which you could have taken leave for, or you could have negotiated with one of your colleagues to hold the fort on a Saturday morning. So this is where it's important, but not urgent, and otherwise it will become important and urgent. And by that stage, you may not have the resources. For example, if you decide on January the 1st that you don't have enough viva practice, what do? You've got 20 days left for your exam. It becomes panic, but if you would like to sort of find out, kind of read more about people and how they've prepared for the exam, just read our blog. We've got a few articles there now, and I put it on the chat box of people and how they prepared. So please read that. The third type of one is where it's not important, but it's urgent. Okay, so this is where things like a request from a colleague, maybe sometimes checking emails. It's probably not important, but it's urgent. Some emails you might need to look at. Some meetings which are not necessary for you to attend, work-related calls, booking flights. You might need to do this, but they may be unimportant calls. So here's an example. I've got to be careful here, but I sometimes get calls from maybe it's my I don't know if this is a good example or not, but my spouse would just ring me and ask me something in the middle of perhaps a webinar like this, but it may be urgent, but at least from their point of view, it might be urgent that I attend it, but it might not be important. And there it's best to reschedule or delegate. So here it might be an example. Maybe someone rings you up in the middle of something and you can't do it. You might find someone, you might ask them to find someone else who can do it for you. Maybe pick up the kids, in 20 minutes. Well, can you find someone else? And sometimes all you have to do is just just ask the question back. But these you've got to ask yourself when you get these kind of things, can they be rescheduled or delegated? Okay, you've got to ask yourself that question. So if you have any examples of those, please put them on the chat box of not important but urgent. I don't think I've done justice to that list there. It's very difficult. But the other thing, it's often other people who create this little box. It's other people, and sometimes the most appropriate thing to do is to say no. Okay, so I just want to say the art of saying no is an art, and how you say it will determine the kind of the response that the other person has. So being able to say no to people, if we are yes people, they're going to be always stressed. So I have often encouraged my team. I like people who say to me, I can't do that now. And one of our team members is extremely good at that. I can't do that now, but I'll do it by tomorrow morning. Most of my team, a lot of my team say yes to everything, but then it's worse because then if they don't deliver, that really, grates. It's much better to say no. Does my team, I think, arrange a snagger, for example. That's a good example not important but urgent, especially if some of those snagging things that you need to do in let's say in a house, you've done a building work. I don't know if that's what you mean, Hajira, but you do some building work or refurbish your room, and there's a little bit of snagging to do, which you know could be leaking a roof or something. You need to get it. You need to get it done. It's urgent, but probably not that important. You can delegate it to someone else. But you don't need to do it. So 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 try to learn to say yes to the person, but no to the task. So there's a way of saying it. There's a way of negotiating, and I think the top tip is learn to say no. And there's a book actually by an FBI guy, which I'd like to remember, but I can't at the moment. Let me see if I can find it. It's a very good book about negotiation, which I recommend you read. Let me see if I can find it. Chris Voss. Okay, if maybe Asha, one of you can look at a book by Chris. I'll show you Chris Voss. If you can find the name of the book, just put the book there. I think it's about the art of saying no. So that's a really good book to help you learn how to do that. Okay, let's move on. Lastly, are these activities which are frankly just a distraction? Okay, and if at all possible, avoid them or do them when they're not when you're just in your downtime. Okay, you can simply ignore or cancel many of them. And now, if you think back, let's say social media and surfing the net, yeah, it's nice to do and it's nice to just make contact with different people, but did it really add to your life? I have to ask myself this question. Instagram and all these things, I do them still, but if you're a busy person and you're trying to fit that in as well, then you've got to make sure that you've set some boundaries. And if you're clear about your boundaries, then that's okay. Some of these activities may be things that other people want you to do, even though they don't contribute to your own desired outcomes. Again, learn to say no politely and explain why you can't do it. Maybe some calls where there are people who take up your emotional bandwidth, as they say. These are people that you might need to say no to. I can't. Yeah, never split the difference. That's right. Never split the difference, negotiating as if your life depending on it. So do a little search on YouTube. There are lots of videos by Chris Voss. He's actually connected with me on LinkedIn, so you can try and connect with him. So he is a well-known. This book is very well known, and it's really about saying no and how to say no. And often, the other thing, for example, I want to give you a little tip here. When you call someone, always ask them, is this a bad time to call you? We often ask in England, is this a good time? And a good time, if they say it's a good time, well, they'll either say yes or no. But if you say, is this a bad time, then they can say yes or no without feeling bad about it, because they can say, yes, it is a bad time, but could we do it in a different way? There's a psychological difference in the way that you are saying no when you ask that question. So again, just read the book, and I think you will find it very helpful. So how do you create a priority management process? So first of all, I would recommend take a screenshot of this by all means. Identify the goals, first of all. Write down your goals. Plan out each week in advance. Also identify your long-term goals, which maybe, I want to pass the FRCR exam, or I want to do EDIR, or, I want to get married maybe, or whatever it is. Identify the goals. Create your tasks lists. Write down all your weekly tasks. especially recurring tasks, and then prioritize the tasks in these four boxes: urgent and important, not urgent but important, urgent but not important, and not urgent and not important. So um, I think what you need to identify the big sort of rock items which you need to achieve by the end of this quarter or this month to hit your year-end goals. And these goals will act as a guideline to keep you on track week on week, Secondly, when you create your list of tasks, write down everything you need to accomplish this week, okay? And then prioritize them as I've said there. Okay, sorry. What's happened there? Yeah, okay, next slide. Um, assign a time to each task. So write down roughly, is it going to take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours? Schedule it. So I often say to my candidates who call me up about how to prepare for the exam, I say, give us 3 hours a day to do the packets on our system. 3 hours a day means one written packet, one long case, one rapid reporting case. Put that into your timetable. In 30 days, you'd have finished 30 packets. The next 30 days, you can start doing 3 rapid reporting packets a day instead of long cases. And basically put it into your timetable and create a work schedule and start with your sort of A priorities. What are your top priorities? Then your Bs, then your Cs, and then your Ds. And also do some kind of block scheduling, okay, where you group similar tasks together. And that can help you work efficiently. So let me think of an example. So if, for example, you wanted to plan a trip to for a holiday. Now, I used to do this, and I've got a little bad recently at this, which is I book the flight, then I forget to book the hotel, or I think I'll do the hotel later. And then weeks go by, getting closer. I think that I've booked the hotel, then realize I haven't, or I haven't booked the parking in the airport. But here, if I put it all together and say, as part of my holiday plan, I'm going to book the flights, I'm going to book time off work, I'm going to book the time off work, book the flights, book the accommodation, book the parking, book anything else that I need to to do, maybe the things we're going to do, maybe all the holiday, put it together, finished, holiday booked, sorted, finished. That can be really helpful rather than trying to do a few things, part of it. So block scheduling can be good. Another management tip is to delegate to each other. So there may be things that someone in your family is better doing. Then you just delegate that and say, okay, could you book the flights by tomorrow and let me know when you've done it? Or can you book the accommodation? It may be that your spouse is better at finding accommodation. Don't do it then. Delegate it, hand it over to them, but make sure that you have a tick and tell them, let me know when you've done it, or you're going to discuss it usually, and then tick it off. So you can do it like that as well. There's also lots of software that can help you with this. You can do a little search on Google, I'm sure. Resource scheduling software is the catchword. I think resource scheduling software. Let me write that down. Just do a search on those, okay? And then track and review. And this is where you hold yourself accountable to ask yourself, how long each batch of tasks is completed? Did you stay in track? Do you need more or less time to complete your tasks? Because once you have a good understanding of your working habits, you can use that to become accountable. I can promise you that doing this exercise is going to help you become much more relaxed, okay? So here are the final tips before we go to a little bit of discussion. Maybe make your to-do list of all your tasks for the week. Set aside time for unexpected tasks. most time should be set aside for the important but not urgent tasks, because they're the most common, as well as the urgent and important tasks. So those are the two ones that you want to spend your most time on. And then anything that's in the bottom row, you learn to say no to certain tasks, but do not procrastinate. That is one of the worst things you can do. So always give some time in your day to attacking your to-do list.